Hello, I'm Jonasz Rwiński and you're watching TVP World Talks, where every word matters. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelenskyy came to Warsaw with words of gratitude for Polish support and a stark warning for Western Europe. If Ukraine falls, the burden of deterrence will fall upon you, and you alone, he said. He also emphasized that admitting Kyiv to NATO would solve the problem, a solution which, unfortunately, many Western leaders appear to have rejected, at least for the time being. All this was also set against the background of the still simmering dispute between Poland and Ukraine concerning the tragic legacy of World War II and the massacre of Poles by Ukrainian nationalists during that time. Joining us now is Grzegorz Skrukwa, professor at the Adam Mickiewicz University. Hello and welcome to TVP World.
Hello, good morning to you all.
So let's begin with the message that President Zelenskyy had for Europe. Do you think Europe will heed this warning and reconsider admitting Ukraine to its security structure in order to not only to ensure Ukraine's survival, but also the shared security of the entire region?
Yes, of course, Ukraine accession to the European and Atlantic security structure is crucial for the safety of Europe, Central Europe, and of Poland especially. So it's nothing. It's generally nothing new. It's generally truth. It's known in Poland since the beginning of the full-scale Russian aggression, at least.
Do you think that historical issues should stand in the way of the partnership between, in particular, Poland and Ukraine?
Yesterday visit of President Zelenskyy in Poland and a very important meeting with Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk and Polish President Andrzej Duda has happened in very composite circumstances. At first, we have a beginning of presidential election campaign in Poland, which is beginning now. At second, we have a beginning of Polish presidency in the European Union in the forthcoming half year. At first, we have only 4 days to the inauguration of Donald Trump presidency in the United States, so there is a big uncertainty about the future of the whole North Atlantic and world policy. And fourth circumstance is the last but not least the ongoing Russian aggression against Ukraine. So the historical matters between Poland and Ukraine are, of course, very important for Polish society, for Polish historical remembrance, but could not be security of Poland, security of Europe, and Polish-Ukrainian relationships could not be taken a hostage of a historical burden, even it's very hard and painful sometimes.
So Poland's Prime Minister Donald Tusk emphasized this very issue. Yes, please do go on.
Yesterday's statements, both the joint statement of Polish Prime Minister and Ukrainian President, and the statement of Polish President and Polish Prime Minister, I found it very constructive, and I found it as it may become a milestone in Polish-Ukrainian reconciliation. So it can facilitate and easy the whole strategic issues between Poland, Ukraine, and Europe.
And do you think President Zelenskyy has said enough on the matter? Some people have criticized his interview in which he did say that we need to cooperate. He did say that we are in, as you said, a very unique geopolitical situation. But some critics say, well, he could have used this opportunity to perhaps accept the historical responsibility, to deal with the issue directly. And they say he did not. Would you agree with this assessment?
Yes, with Polish expectations on the historical matters are almost always more than the Ukrainian response. So yes, in Mr. Zelensky's statement, the historical issues are not on the first place. some millions in Poland expect, but I hope that this visit and the start of the working of a Polish-Ukrainian working group under the auspices of Ministry of Cultures of both countries are very perspective.
Do you think there is a risk that the issue could be taken hostage in domestic politics? I'm referring to both Ukraine, where you have many people still thinking that members of the Ukrainian insurgent army, that they are heroes and they just disregard their responsibility for the massacres. But also you have the Polish political scene. You've mentioned elections. We had the candidate for the biggest opposition party, the former ruling party, Law and Justice, who said, if these matters are not resolved, Ukraine has, and I quote, no place in the European Union. Does such a harsh statement make sense in the current situation, though?
Yes, it's an important question, and both in Poland as in Ukraine, the historical matters can be instrumentalized and used in domestic politics, both in Polish presidential election campaign and also in Ukraine, where the whole nation emotions about identity are now very high, and Ukraine is not a good moment, as someone can say, to be very critical towards their own history and the dark sides of our own history. So, and both in Poland and Ukraine, there is danger and the risk of instrumental use. Historical issues, exploiting the anti-Ukrainian and anti-Polish bias and emotions. It's of course it was a big risk, and now it's even more important than, for example, 2 years ago.
And do you think there might be a problem with the incendiary language that some conservative politicians later used when responding to Zelenskyy? Zelenskyy basically addressed the statement by the candidate, Mr. Nawrocki, saying that, look, if Ukraine is not in the European Union, Ukraine may fall, and at some point you might find yourself fighting a war. And they responded essentially by saying Ukraine has no place in the European Union at this stage, calling President Zelenskyy a comedian. This is a language that is quite common, but it is quite common among far-right commentators on Twitter, for example, in the US, some other countries. In Poland, this wasn't quite as common until now. Do you think this could be changing? And if so, why?
I'm afraid that such language is now a common language of both domestic and foreign politics in Europe and in the world. The language of politics is worse than a few years ago. Some kind of change of comments between a Polish candidate for presidency supported by the Law and Justice Party, and both the response of President Zelenskyy is not. It's not a very fortunate, both for Poland and for Ukraine. I think that such direct comments about these questions are not fortunate, but for both countries.
And there were even accusations of interfering in the election process.
Normal phenomenon. It's sad, but it's true.
So now let's take a glance at the situation from, let's say, a bigger vantage point. What can Poland and Ukraine gain by cooperating, apart from the obvious benefits in the realm of security, by Ukraine being the bulwark against Russia? What else is there? There was a comment made once that, together there is like 90 million of us, and that's a formidable force.
Poland is, as you say, Poland and Ukraine together There are about 100 millions. Our societies are in close relations. We have close relationships in a lot of platforms, a lot of areas: economic, scientific, cultural, sport. Our societies are very close. We know both nations between us very, very close. Cooperation in industry, in culture, in science, in education. We have a lot of areas of cooperation, and it's now as important, even more important than 5, 6, 10 years ago. Of course, there are also big risks. For example, agriculture areas. When the Ukraine is a big potential as a strong with a strong farming sector, it could be a concurrence for Polish farming sector in context of Ukraine accession and cooperation with European Union. But I think that all these questions could be resolved for common good and common cooperation.
Professor Grzegorz Skrukwa was our guest today here on TVP World. Thank you very much for joining us and for sharing your insights.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I'm Adam Mickiewicz. You're watching TVP World. Please stay with us for more latest news and updates.